Last week, the world lost one of its greatest showmen, and I lost a friend. Here's the real story about Hulk Hogan, arguably the most famous professional wrestler of all time, who persevered inside and outside the ring. At one time, the highest paid professional wrestler in all of the WWE. And by the way, a lot of people don't know what the WWE stands for. It stands for World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, that's important. We'll get back to that later. His net worth at the time of his death was $25 million. At its peak, it was $100 million. And in the 1980s, he was making $10 million a year. In today's dollars, that would translate to almost $30 million a year. Think about that. Hogan died in Florida from cardiac arrest. Now, he was only 71 years old. Here are the headlines. Hulk Hogan wasn't just an American icon, he was America. Hulk Hogan, pro wrestling icon and pop culture mainstay, dies at 71. Hulk Hogan, dead at 71. Wrestler's biggest controversies during his storied career. I think it's interesting that these legacy media organizations feel the need to lead, even in the headlines, with criticism of the man, even in death. I knew Hulk Hogan. He, like every single one of us, you, your friends and family, me, everyone, was and is a flawed human being. He made more good choices than bad ones. His impact was way more positive than negative. He had a public image and a brand, and he had a private persona that was quite different, dramatically so. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about this American icon and remember him. And I'll bet every one of you knows who I'm talking about and has some recollection of when you first intersected with him on TV or through the media in some way. First, let's focus on his legendary pro wrestling career, how it started. Hogan was born in Augusta, Georgia. He began watching pro wrestling as a teen. He looked up to legends such as Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham. Now, he was a musician and a pretty darn good one, actually. He played bass guitar. He dropped out of college and started a band. In fact, he had several bands. One of the most notable was one called Ruckus. He played bass. At one point, he even tried to join the Rolling Stones. The band was looking for a bass player, and he took a shot. But his band was actually pretty good. And a lot of pro wrestlers came to watch him perform at different bars and clubs around the area. He loved baseball. He was actually a pitcher. And Major League Baseball was interested, seriously, because he was a big guy. He was strong, and he really knew how to throw that ball. But sadly, he hurt his elbow, and that kind of ended his shot at being in Major League Baseball. Now, an interesting side note is he was afraid of wrestlers. They kind of intimidated him, and he was scared of these guys. But yet they came to see him, and he got to know them, and they were blown away by his size and strength. And soon they had kind of coaxed him, and he was in the ring training to be a pro wrestler. But as I said, he had a lot of ups and downs in his career, and on his first day of training, he broke his leg and had to have 10 weeks of rehab. I mean, setback on his first day. It was one of the many obstacles that he would have to overcome in his career. And clearly, these matches have predetermined outcomes. But nonetheless, the physical effort, the skill, the storytelling are very real. It's a soap opera in a ring, but these are amazing athletes. These guys are picking each other up over their head. They're getting thrown out of the ring. They're landing on their backs and, doing flips. These are amazing athletes. They don't try to hide the fact that it is a unique form of entertainment. So fast forward, he had a big break in 1978. Superstar Billy Graham got him a wrestling job in Alabama, and his salary was $175 a week. That would be about $900 a week today. Now, his next stop was Memphis, which was a hotbed for pro wrestling. And one day he appeared on a talk show with Lou Ferrigno. You remember him. He was known as the Incredible Hulk. And Hogan was 6'7" and 275 pounds, and he towered over Ferrigno. Now, people noticed, and he took on the name Hulk. And when he joined the WWF, owner Vince McMahon wanted Hulk to have an Irish name, and so he became Hulk Hogan. Now, Hulk started as a villain. As I say, these are soap operas. There's good guys and there's bad guys. And he started out as a villain. And he had a rivalry with Andre the Giant, who he actually fought in Shea Stadium in New York in 1980. Now, think about that. Filling up Shea Stadium in 1980. And when you go back and look at the timeline in the history, people will say that it changed professional wrestling. It was that big of a deal. And Hulk's career took off in 1984 when he won his first WWF World Heavyweight Championship, defeating the Iron Sheik and being the first man to escape the camel clutch, which was the Iron Sheik's finishing move. Hulkamania was born, and he became a pop culture icon. And he headlined the very first WrestleMania, teaming up with Mr. T. He had an iconic match versus Andre the Giant in front of 93,000 plus at the Pontiac Silverdome. And he was the only pro wrestler to make the cover of Sports Illustrated. I mean, think about that. It seems everybody knows that this is a show. It's scripted. It's a drama, it's a soap opera inside the ring, but he made the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was so powerful that he was in Rocky III, and he injured 3 stuntmen that he was supposed to go into the audience and deal with, but he was so powerful, he didn't know his own strength. He had his own Saturday morning cartoon, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. He rebranded himself as Hollywood Hogan, and he starred in movies like Suburban Commando, No Holds Barred, and TV shows, Thunder in Paradise. And there were legendary catchphrases like, "What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" He really was an icon. He stopped wrestling about 15 years ago. And he once said that the top wrestlers were performing as much as 200 times a year. Now think about what they did. Like I said, flipping in the ring, diving off the top ropes, landing on each other. There's not much time to recover. Was he flawed? Well, sure he was. In the early 90s, he admitted on the stand during the WWE steroid trials that he had used steroids for years. It tarnished his clean hero image during the height of his popularity. And there was a lawsuit. Gawker Media leaked a secretly recorded sex tape of Hogan and his best friend's wife. And he sued and won a $180 million judgment, which led to Gawker's bankruptcy. And it had audio of Hogan using racial slurs. And he said this was just terrible. He said it was a low point in his life. He apologized profusely for it. He was fired by the WWE. They removed him from the Hall of Fame section of their website. So, look, he was a guy that had crazy ups and downs all of his life. And he was in an entertainment part of sports that was full contact, and his life, as life can be, a full contact sport. Life's not a success-only journey, and it certainly wasn't for Hulk Hogan. But I tell you what, given where he came from, the heights that he made it to, he found a moral compass in his life. And he lived, as I said, what I think was a life that had a whole lot more positive impact than it did negative. He was kind to his fans. He was kind particularly to young fans. And he was a pretty gentle spirit. I knew him for a number of years, didn't know him particularly well, but knew him enough to know there was a huge difference between his brand and his private persona. And, you know, sometimes you make the right decisions and sometimes you have to make the decisions right. And I think he spent a lot of his life making some of those decisions right. And I hope that his family is proud to say they were related to and spent their lives with Hulk Hogan. And in my opinion, when it comes to Hulk Hogan, that's the real story.
Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. I'll see you tomorrow.
Whether it's talk of a Nobel Peace Prize or fears of World War III, one thing's certain: uncertainty rules the day. And when the world feels this unstable, your finances are on the line. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices could skyrocket just like the 1970s. That triggered inflation, gas shortages, and a weakening dollar. Wall Street's already tense. Goldman Sachs sees sustained recession risk, and JP Morgan warns of a potential oil shock. Add in $36 trillion in national debt, and the financial pressure is real. This isn't hype, it's a wake-up call. The time to act is now. That's why I trust Preserve Gold. When the world turns unstable, smart folks turn to gold and silver. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 in free silver with a qualified purchase. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today.